Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 77 on Tuesday, the 6th of November 2016. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew. Grumpy Andrew.
Yes, very grumpy Andrew.
In case anyone saw Twitter before.
It's going to be, as I said, it's going to be one of those shows this week.
But no follow-up.
No follow-up, but I am going to quickly apologise if there's any funny background noises because I'm in a hotel room that overlooks a tram line and the trams keep going past me. Lots of noise. Yeah. So apologies now for any odd background noise, and that should save Andrew some time in the editing tomorrow. Don't say I'm not good to you.
Right, straight on to new news then.
Well, yes, yeah.
It's that time of the month.
Like a follow-up. It is that time. It is that time of the month. That explains why you're so grumpy.
Oh no! Oh god! Well done.
It's early on. You can always come.
Well done. We've got what 2 minutes into this, and you've alienated 50% of the population. Well done.
50, yes.
Oh, I apologise.
He sets them up
on behalf of the Motoring Podcast from my completely insensitive partner. So right, anyway. Moving on to the news. Away from contentious issues, please.
Right. So yes, November figures coming in from the Society of Motor Manufacturing and Traders yesterday, which shows that November, I keep saying December, that November this year was better than November last year with a 2.9% increase in vehicles registered. That 2.9% increase brings the total number registered to 184,101 vehicles. Total sales so far, just over 2.5 million cars sold this year. So, yeah. What were the wins? What were the losers?
Well, diesel was down slightly, and alternative fuel was up, as was petrol.
But what's curious is that diesel still fractionally, just by a smidgen, has a higher market share. It's 48.3% so far this year against 48.1%. Now, that's something, but last year at this point, it was 51.2% in favour of diesel, 45.9% for petrol. Alternative fuel vehicles had 3% last year and 3.6% this year, just so that we've covered all the bases. What else? Private sales were down 1.2%. Fleet sales were up 5.1%, and business sales, that's fleets of less than 12 vehicles, were up 24.3% compared to last year. So yep, that was kind of, and that's on the month-by-month basis. That's just. And yeah, as far as headline numbers, that pretty much covers it. I mean, it's outside. It's outside what I class as the 2% rounding error.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty positive, I think.
Yeah. Let's have a look at the manufacturers that.
Yeah, and then we'll do the
top 10
bestsellers after that.
Yeah. I'm going to go alphabetically, and I'm going to start with the winners. So I will start at the top. Yes, we'll save the doom and gloom till later. But Audi had a good month, up 16.5%, which equates to just a smidgen under 13,000 cars.
Is it worth mentioning that the manufacturers that had good months this month had really quite good months? And the manufacturers that had bad months had really very bad months.
Well, the ones we're reporting, yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's others that have...
Oh, I mean, there's okay, so Infiniti are up 169%. But that's not one of the ones where, because of the numbers of cars and stuff.
Yeah, because it's number, if you remember, if you've played along before, It's number of cars combined with percentage figures, and we look at, we take a judgment on those two figures together to the ones that we discuss. Otherwise, we would go through an entire Excel spreadsheet, which I don't think anybody...
Which actually it looks like we're going to do tonight. Anybody
really wants to do too often. So, BMW, 28%, which is 15,330 cars. Jaguar, another good month for Jaguar, just under 36%, to 2,900 cars. Kia, good month there, 18%, just over, to a smidgen over 6,000 cars.
Mm-hmm.
Lexus, just under 22%, means 931 cars. Mercedes, yet another premium brand, 14.6% increase to 11,382. Good news for Nissan at just over 16.5% to just over 10,000 cars.
Well, I wonder what's triggered that one, because I don't think they've changed the range that much. Or is that just the good news about Sunderland and shouldn't have made a difference? It wouldn't make 16% difference, would it?
No, I don't know. Maybe they've got offers because they're going to change models soon or something.
Yeah, possibly, because they're still down 1.6% for the year.
Yeah. Porsche, 21.5% up to just over 1,000 cars. So that's quite good for them. Good month for Renault.
Mm-hmm.
Nearly 12.5% to make 6,500 odd cars. Wonder why that is. Megane?
It's not going to be a new Scenic. Could well be a new Megane. It's a nice looking car.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's an odd one. Yeah.
Excellent month for Seat. 35%. 3,668.
That's a facelift. That's the Ateca. And
the Ateca is really, really kicking in now. So that's... it's doing what Seat, I think, hoped and expected, quietly expected, but weren't going to declare in public. But I think they expected that to do well. And sister company Skoda, 24% to just a smidgen under 6,000 cars. Smart, again, it's not massive numbers, but just over 30% to 921 cars.
I've started noticing a lot of 4.4s around. The Ford, the Renault Twingo ones.
Yeah, because they're hideously ugly.
Well, they are hideously ugly, but I think that things are those might do things.
Oh, okay. Well, that would make sense.
Funny feeling. But I've seen quite a few around, so it's either that or there's awesome deals on. They're not. They ain't pretty.
No, they took a step backwards with the design.
Well, at least they've got proper manual gearbox. Which, if you've ever driven an older Smart, you'll understand why the proper manual gearbox is important. Those.
No, I had it. No, because you've driven one, haven't you? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Suzuki, good month there. Nearly 21.5% to 2,300 cars, and Volkswagen, a bounce back on this time last year of just under 11% to 14,351 cars. However, I don't know whether that was the first month that Dieselgate had any impact.
Possibly.
Could have been.
Well, it didn't, because we all just thought it was a little thing to begin with. We've been doing so well because there was going to be no Dieselgate news this week.
It's just a brief mention.
Okay.
Right, okay, the less
so
wells...
I do the doom and gloom, then?
The less wells starting at the bottom, alphabetically moving upwards, because we're there on the spreadsheet.
Difficult, don't you? So, do you want me to run through these?
Yeah, you can go for it.
So, Vauxhall down 23%, almost 24% actually, and almost pretty much 5,000 cars fewer sold this November compared to November 2015, which is quite painful. Peugeot, not great, down 12.7% again year on year. And Mitsubishi, similarly, down 15.7% compared to last year. Land Rover.
Bit of a shocker, that one.
Well, it is and it isn't. I don't know if the initial flush of Discovery Sport's starting to wear off. And as well as that, they don't have the Square Discovery anymore, have they? They stopped making that. I think it was in October. They stopped actually building those.
So the Discovery is not out till next year, is it?
I don't know.
Well, I saw a tweet today of people driving around in prototypes
and
saying, if you want to know what it's like, wait till February 2017.
All right. Well, there's that. So there's no Discovery. There's no Discovery. There's no Defender. That probably explains why it's down 19.23%.
Mm. Mm-hmm. And has some sales gone to the F-Pace?
Well, it's a slightly different market, I think. People who
Range
wanted
Rover
a bigger Evoque would probably have gone to the F-Pace.
The Range Rover Sport.
I feel it's slightly bigger than the F-Pace, though. It's slightly different. I know what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you, and I think that there will be some cross-pollination, but I think the F-Pace actually brings a slightly different market in that wouldn't necessarily have considered a Range Rover Sport.
Mm. Anyway, sorry, I digress. I'm trying to pick apart figures.
DS down 44%, Citroen down 28%. Ouch.
Yes.
Quite painful. We were discussing that a little bit just before we started recording, before we decided really we should start recording and keep our discussion on air. But yeah, I mean, I think it seems to me, in my mind, it's been a little while since the DS range had any kind of significant revision. So I think there was a facelift of the DS4, the ugly one, in there, and Citroen, I guess, is waiting for the new C3 to come on stream here in the UK. But we were having trouble working out just what you buy from the Citroen range. And there's the Picassos. I'm so sorry.
Ding.
Ooh. It's an hour later for me, mate. It was Picassos and the C3.
There's the Cactus. People are buying the Cactus.
Oh, the Cactus, of course, yes. I saw one here with sort of wintry tyres on and stuff earlier on today, and it looked really good. Yellow. It looked fantastic.
All right, good.
Good Tonka toy, yeah. So, but yes, a shame so they're down 28%. Anyway, shall we take a look at the top 10?
Yep.
The top 10 by this time of the year should be painfully obvious to you all, and you should be able to pretty much guess at most of it, really. So at number 10, with 3,203 cars sold, the Mercedes-Benz C-Class. Number 9, the Audi A3. Number 8, the Volkswagen Polo. Number 7, the Mini. Number 6, the Nissan Qashqai, with 4,242 sold. So that's those top 5 split by 1,000 cars, more or less. 5th, the Ford Focus, 4,321. 4th, the Vauxhall Corsa, with barely a rounding error worth of 4,341. Only 20 cars between those. 3rd, the Volkswagen Golf, 4,663. 2nd, the Vauxhall Astra, with 4,829. So that's quite 500 more Astras than Corsas this year. Last month.
I think they were last month as well, the month before. I think the Astra outsold the Corsa the month before.
Right. It's nowhere near it over the course of the year.
No, not over the year, but...
And number 1...
Can you guess?
Can you guess? Have you guessed yet? Have you guessed? Selling... with 3... hang on, let me do the maths here. Is it 3,000... 3,500. Sensible people would have done that first. 3,500 more registrations than the second most registered vehicle, and I'm trying to be really careful about my wording, is the Ford Fiesta. It's the replacement has been revealed in a where they locked a lot of automotive journalists up in a big hall in Cologne for many days.
I did ask about that.
Yeah, I know. I don't think
Ford did reply to me directly and did say that no, it's okay. They'll be out by Friday.
Yeah,
this was on the Tuesday.
Yeah, quite. There, but once again, just what's it selling? Selling 40% more than the next best-selling
registration.
Yes, so for more registrations than the next most registered vehicle, quite incredible. I think
amazing,
and I imagine it will be in the. Despite the fact its replacement has been unveiled, I fully expect the Ford Fiesta to be number one for December as well, and probably January too.
Well, I can't really see anything knocking it off.
Not unless there is a pause in supply.
Which I don't think Ford would.
I don't think Ford would do that. It's pretty much seamless one to the next.
And when it starts...
So anyway, again, the usual question, where do they all go?
Yes. If anyone knows, do tell us.
Yes, please.
Write into @motoringpodcast.
Yes, info@motoringpodcast.com for the generic one, or our names @motoringpodcast.com if you really want to tell one or other of us. But where do they go? Do they reach 4 years old and just go pop and disappear or something?
Have they got the fantastic inbuilt obsolescence?
Yeah. All of a sudden. It's like Nokia 3110s or something. All of a sudden your Ford Fiesta basically drives itself into a crusher. Yeah. Right. Anyway, that's enough of being silly about Fords and Ford Fiestas. Andrew, do you want some almost Dieselgate news?
Yes. It was announced last week that 4 cities, Paris, Madrid, Athens and Mexico City, are going to ban diesel vehicles by 2025.
They have pledged to ban diesel vehicles.
Sorry, yes, we have to use the correct terminology, don't we? Yes, absolutely. As with the previous item on this show, we must make sure that we get this wording correct. Yes, thank you, Alan, for catching me.
That's all right.
They have pledged that diesel vehicles will be banned in Paris, Madrid, Athens and Mexico City by 2025. Now, when diesel banning was mentioned previously for Paris, that didn't go down too well with the French population. They got a little bit cross. And when they get a bit cross, things tend to end up on fire. So, hopefully the reaction this time won't be quite as bad. I mean, okay, the reason this is happening is because of air quality and the poor levels of air quality, and something needs to happen. And these are particularly vehicle-choked cities.
Mm-hmm.
Although, reading another report today, they're nowhere near as bad as London.
but Mexico City, I thought they mostly burnt bioethanol and stuff, rather than diesel.
I don't know. I don't know the details, so I don't know whether this is clever politician things to make it look as though they're doing something when, in fact, they're not really doing anything. But to mainstream press and stuff, we're making giant strides. So
there's I mean, if you read this is by Sam Sheehan, and I think he's probably quite right when he goes through, and the wording is quite careful. So basically, there's many sweeping statements about quality of air and reducing greenhouse gas emissions and cycling infrastructure and dead things, but then you get to bits like this announcement comes 2 months after all 16 German states voiced their intention to ban both petrol and diesel vehicles by 2030. We'll all have forgotten by then. We'll all have forgotten in a year's time. But they've made pledges and they've said lots of things about, yes, we really should think about doing this. And I do feel that there's a lot of politician weasel words around this. Do I think it's a bad thing? Ultimately, no, it's not a bad thing, not at all. I think there has to be a push as well as pull to move us towards vehicles that don't pollute at the point of use, because then it's easier to deal with that centralised pollution, because there's always going to be some kind of outcome of it.
But I think
do I think this is vacuous noise? Yes, I do.
I mean, it goes back to the comments when we've discussed Sadiq Khan's ideas.
He's very good at vacuous noise.
His ideas about clean air and how he's all for the air that's clean in London, and all for London and Londoners that are clean and have air. It is one element. We need to hear. It's a multi-pronged attack. I've said it many times before. It's a multi-pronged attack. There is, as you've said, Alan, there has to be push and pull from all sectors of society, not just government, not just financial. It's all things have to come in. It can't work on just one thing. So,
no, keep going.
No, I was going to say so. Yes, that's one element, and that's a great headline grabber. I want to see other elements that I've said before of incentivising businesses to move out, have smaller offices, encourage people to work from home, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I actually, by the way, would much rather and would be far less offended if they were actually doing things rather than just making noises a bit.
Yes. I mean, doing something is better than nothing. They're just adding to CO2 issues by all this hot air. Right, let's move on again.
So yes, Aston Martin have appointed a new chief technical officer, and that's Maximilian
Swage. I will finish it for my erstwhile colleague who is having trouble with words tonight.
I should say, we do not normally have this issue with people's names, and this is the fourth time I've tried it. I've failed miserably. It gets worse every time. So, yes. So Aston Martin have appointed a new chief technical officer. It is Maximilian Swage, who is a former innovation boss at Ferrari. So he was there for almost 6 years, but he has moved to the Gaydon firm. His predecessor, a chap called Ian Maynards, he moved to the even more vacuous than the Apple car.
No pun intended.
Okay, yeah, yes, no pun intended. The much rumoured Dyson car as well, which supposedly is all happening in a sort of very secretive location, probably somewhere near Bristol. There. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be quite a tough job. There's lots of work ahead of him because there is a whole new family of models coming out from Aston Martin, which are currently being developed, and I'm sure Mr. Swage will be hard at work on those.
Yes. Shall we move on, Alan? Do you want us to leave this article now?
It's a relief to be through that one. Yes.
Okay, well, this is the news that Volkswagen have leapt on the mobility services bandwagon with I didn't realise this was the case. The 13th Volkswagen Group brand called Moya.
Can I? Oh, no, on you go. You keep going, and then I'll be vocal.
Okay. So once again, we are discussing, or a traditional car manufacturer is talking about mobility and ride sharing and other words that are being thrown around by everyone at the moment. I was waiting to see emotion in there next, but it wasn't quite.
I spotted carpooling for those of you playing along at home.
Well, I mean, when they say mobility, they mean transport, and when they say ride sharing, they mean taxi service. So, So that's putting it in real language that real people can really understand instead of marketing terms. Because that's a problem I have, which possibly people who follow me on Twitter may have noticed this evening before we started recording. But that is, I think, in all seriousness, okay, I went on a bit of a rant, but in all seriousness, I think that is an issue with this change in the way the car manufacturers are looking at the business and the way they're looking to expand what they offer to people and how they offer it to people. Is there is so much marketing terms being used that they really need to boil it back. Sometimes it isn't sexy, and that's the problem. Taxi doesn't sound as nice as ride hailing or ride sharing, but it's a taxi. It just happens to be the Volkswagen taxi as opposed to an Uber or a Addison. What's the one in London that I had to dodge repeatedly? Was it Addison?
Addison Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a black cab, or your local towns, King Cabs or Us or whatever they are. That's what we're actually talking about here. So, but in this case, they are going to use their own specialist vehicles, which are going to be built by one of the Volkswagen groups, and apparently they're to look a little bit like the Buddy microbus, if you remember that.
VW Group's special purpose vehicle could resemble the Buddy microbus. Sorry, I'm being a real pedant.
No, that's okay, because the way I'd read somewhere else that people were talking as though that it was probably going to look like that.
I think
that's right. I don't want to say that.
It could look like that, but mostly I think it's because there were it looks like the only images that were released were the brand logo Moya,
which happens to resemble the silhouette, doesn't it?
Yeah. And there was a silhouette of a T5 transporter caravel bus thing with Moya on it. That's it. So I think people wanted a car-looking picture, and so the latest was a rendering of the Buddy microbus concept idea.
Mm.
Can I just say my bit on this?
You go for it.
I think that by Volkswagen insisting on bringing out a new brand for this, that what they're saying is, we're not sure this is going to work. We don't really think this is going to work, and we don't want it to sully any of our other brands. So we actually have so little faith in this concept that we're going to build up. We're just going to make another brand, which is a very simple logo and all sorts of stuff, and not very many employees. And we're going to see what happens to it, and then we can just burn it, and nobody will really be any the wiser.
Well, is ride sharing actually working? Are any of these new companies?
Rideshare does not work, generally speaking. What they are taxi
Are they
companies.
Making money? Are they actually making money? I think Uber it's got the investment it's got for what will happen 10 years down the line.
No, I believe Uber's making money hand over fist.
Okay. Well, they might not be soon in the UK.
Well, yeah, that's
that employment law thing.
That's what's going to get in their way. We don't have Lyft, for example, here in the UK either. What we do have is Get, but to be honest, some of these apps and stuff like Get, as I didn't realise until I was reading this article from Autocar, is that Get. I've seen the logos on the sides of loads of taxis, and I was quite surprised. But they bought radio taxis, which used to used to run all the taxis, and that's why they've become much bigger. So they've moved.
So it's going to be
the app
acquisition.
The startup bought up radio taxis, which is one of the reasons why, in theory, you can pay by credit card and stuff in black cab. In theory, you can try and pay via the Get app in black cabs, but if the cabbie doesn't fancy it, it can't. So it's all very.
It just smacks to me as well of these major manufacturers. Of a couple of them started to buy up or invest in ride sharing type mobility brands. So then the others went, oh crikey, we better, just in case we get caught out, And it just seems to be in a bit of a domino effect, because I don't think anyone has really worked out what the future of transport is going to be, apart from there's probably going to be a lot of electric, and there's a good chance that there'll be a fair amount of autonomous type driving elements in certain places after a certain time. I think that's about as close as people can get to it, because there's all this talk of people don't want to buy the cars anymore and things like that, and you know, who knows how, anyway. Well, that's what I mean by they don't want to shell out their money to have an actual vehicle sat outside their house. So I think it's a bit of a punt in the dark, and I think you're quite right in your surmise that they've made it a separate brand, so then it's not that harmful if it doesn't work.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's cunning or smart. I'm not sure where it falls on that kind of thing.
But the lack of detail from a Volkswagen announcement again makes me think that there's a lot of things happening. They're rushing. They are, they're desperately rushing to get something out to make it sound positive and make it sound as though they are making these strides towards this electrified future, and they've got a grip on it. It's totally in control, and that Dieselgate hasn't completely scuppered the boat.
Yeah, I mean, remember, I do, over the course of the last year, to an extent, I have got the feeling from Volkswagen announcements, it's a case of, look over here. No, not at the black pump. Look over here. Look, no, nothing to do with tailpipe emissions. And I feel that's happened a lot. So
because they got a lot of stick with not coming out with stuff a year later, and there seems to be a few announcements on a more positive note, or seemingly positive, but very light on detail.
Yeah, they are. You're right. Yes, I agree completely. Speaking of light on detail,
yes,
it is relatively light news week, as you might have noticed, this week. So once again, because it was a light news week, people have been talking about the Project Titan, which, of course, most people know is the Apple car. The reason,
obviously, if we say Apple, we have to say iCar.
It's not going to be car. It's a watch. I have a watch, not an iWatch. It's a watch. So yes, no, not the iCar.
But that's how it's been reported, isn't it? It's very silly. Reported. Well, everything about the Apple car has been silly up to now. There's people have been, rumour has it, and as with anything to do with Apple.
How many months of rumours did we leave it before we even mentioned it?
Well, finally, there is something remotely in writing which mentions transportation and Apple.
Yeah.
Because there was a letter sent to US's NHTSA, their Highways Traffic Safety Administration, National Highways Traffic Safety Administration, talking about the project that is happening, and it's, as one would expect from Apple, it is quite loosely worded and quite vague.
In ways, it's vague. I mean, it's a 5-page letter, so it can't be too vague, by Apple's Director of Product Integrity, a chap called Steve Kenner. And he was urging the NHTSA not to introduce too many rules on the testing of self-driving cars, and pointing out that he wanted it so that established manufacturers and new entrants should be treated equally, quote unquote.
Do you think this was on the back of the Comma.ai chap getting
possibly.
A letter from NHTSA, and he just went, "Oh no, right, that's it. We can the project because they're asking us stuff they haven't asked others." Or that was what he was trying to. I'm
not allowed to sell this, so he then released it open source. Did we talk about that last week, or is that
no? The open source happened this week. But we didn't talk about the fact that he had a letter where NHTSA had asked for some very specific details from him to do with this project, because he's always maintained that it's an aftermarket safety feature.
Yes.
It is not, and it is using existing stuff, so therefore it does not need to comply with certain regulations, or it does not come under certain things.
Episode 6 of the Autonocast, AUTONOCAST, is actually very interesting on that. People who are much more enlightened than us, informed than us, even.
They are much more in the weeds with it than we are. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's actually a very good show.
Alex Goy, very good show. Alex Goy, Alex Roy. Sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, Alex. Yes, you've now got 2 jobs.
Yes. Yes, I love your car fiction videos and also driving across the US really, really fast. So
in your autonomous Mog.
In your autonomous Mog. Yeah, well, they've both got Morgans. Sorry, stop distracting me. So yes, that has all fed into this.
I think that's where this letter originates from. Is that the feeling of some people, and I think it was on episode 5 of Autonocast, or it might be 4. They do discuss as well, because I haven't heard 6 yet, but they do discuss briefly how this has happened and how what was being. They didn't say this, but they felt that some people were saying that other companies hadn't been asked these specific questions in the past. Like typically, Tesla had not been asked the specific questions.
Say that outright. Didn't.
That were asked of this a year ago, because I don't think NHTSA understood the problem or the issues themselves, so they couldn't have asked the questions. So they were trying to look at it that way as well. So, is it a case of traditional manufacturers are being asked one set of questions and new players are being asked another? I don't know. Is it a case of the NHTSA actually have a better handle on what issues are actually coming to light? And I think that is a definite part of any letter that comes out of them now.
Mm-hmm. I think it's excuse me saying it, a definite probability. I think that's very likely, because the NHTSA is learning as this happens as well. I mean, that's how it has to be. There were another couple of points from the Apple letter that have been published. One is that Steve Kennett was proposing that companies in the industry share data on crashes and near misses in order to build more comprehensive pictures than one company can manage alone. Therefore, I know that. So some companies that build autonomous or build vehicles that they sell as autonomous or near autonomous or autonomous in the future may not have the best reputation for information sharing, or in fact sharing any information whatsoever, other than saying no, not us.
Yeah, these companies may ask you to sign a waiver when you buy the car. That means you cannot get access to this data.
Yeah. So they were proposing that, and the other bit was, but they were also saying that it suggests that industry and regulators, quote again, address privacy challenges associated with the collection, use, and sharing of automated vehicle data, and also doing that in collaboration with privacy experts from outside the automotive industry. So lots of stuff in there, which I think is very, very interesting. I'm not really sure where it goes from an Apple point of view, but certainly some interesting points. And finally, something tangible to discuss around Project.
But I think they could easily be saying the same things, even if it's their ecosystem and not an actual car.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Because I cannot understand why they would want to get into the actual manufacturing of a vehicle.
The margins,
if they can
too commoditized.
If they can get their operating system in instead, that is more profitable for them.
I agree. Yeah. Yes.
Cool.
Good. So, it's that time of the show when I politely ask you to take a few moments to tell a friend about a motoring podcast and review, and to leave a star rating and review for us via the podcast playing platform of your choice. The most popular and powerful podcasting platform of all is iTunes. So a 5-star rating on there is hugely influential, but other podcast apps, such as Stitcher, Downcast, Overcast, and similar, also have rating systems which mean a lot. So thank you very much. I'm just going to quickly point out again this week, you don't need iTunes to leave a rating. Whatever it is you use to listen to us, if you can do it that way. Apart from unless it's our own website, because we just assume you're awesome and you think we're awesome. I think a rating system for our own website would be a bit painful. So, yes, anyway, the ratings do mean a lot, so thank you so very much.
Right, let's move on to the next bit of news then.
Right, yes, good plan. There was a bit of an outcry last week about speed bumps. And this came off the back of the back of a report. Excuse me. Sorry.
Ding. It's been a while since we've had a 2-ding episode.
Oh, it has. I'm quite tired tonight. So this came off the back of a report that came out from NICE, N-I-C-E, which is
National Institute of Health for Health and Care Excellence.
Thank you. Which was talking about urban pollution. And what the report said was the following. Evidence from area-wide schemes does not show increases. This is talking about air pollution. So where physical measures are needed to reduce road injuries, they should be designed to minimise their input on air pollution. The evidence was weak, so this was a consider recommendation. So that's the paragraph from the report.
And how was that reported?
Well, according to
in which calm, measured, and professional manner was this reported to us all?
Well, the Daily Telegraph presented it as "Axe speed bumps to save lives!"
And that was pretty much the tone that was taken by everyone who reported on this.
It was. It went from that. Wouldn't it be good if speed bumps were designed or traffic calming measures were designed so that there wasn't, the deceleration, accelerating again, and the pollution turned into the fact that we needed to get rid of all speed bumps because otherwise speed bumps were killing children. So yeah, it was grossly inflated, and we just wanted to bring you the actual
for a change,
original,
the truth.
For a change, yes, the actual original truth that was behind it all, because it all got very, very, very silly. And there we go. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, dangerous drivers, though.
Yes. There was reports that the government is considering increasing penalties for dangerous drivers who kill people. And they're talking about raising the upper sentence limit to life in prison, which doesn't seem to get too much of a negative press, really, which is understandable. And this is, they're talking about speeding, street racing, or using your mobile phone behind the wheel. That would then rank them as high as manslaughter. Also, they are talking about drink or drug influence driving. Could also be handed life sentences, because at the minute there's a 14-year cap on that.
There is an argument that, it's very difficult, this kind of thing, to be honest. I'm not convinced that because you're in a car and you actually, and you killed someone through negligence, it should be any different from killing someone through negligence when you're not in a car.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that life imprisonment is necessarily the correct punishment for that. I know that that's a maximum punishment. So yeah, so I think.
But I mean, I have problems when they throw in the broad brush of speed.
Yeah, the broad brush of speed is horrible.
Because, as we've discussed here before, speed is maybe a contributing factor, but idiocy is perhaps higher, but more difficult to quantify, qualify, and doesn't make as interesting a headline.
Yeah.
For ragtops and mainstream papers who pretend they're not ragtops when they are.
Yes.
So
I agree. Speeding is incredibly general. I mean, it's like a couple of years ago where when that lady went into the back of my Infiniti, and one of the things that the insurance company said was, "Well, do you think she was speeding?" And it was like, I am not in a position to comment on that at all. I was looking the other way.
Mm.
I was looking the other way at the other traffic. I could not see if she was speeding or not. I'm not prepared to say one way or the other.
Yeah.
Because I think they were then going to try and pin her for something like that as well, make it even harder. And she probably wasn't. I think she was being inattentive, but she probably wasn't speeding.
Yeah, because I mean, this all brings up another thing here, is that we're looking at sticky plasters over the end result.
Yeah, that's true as well.
Why aren't we doing, or why isn't the government or authorities doing more to educate people in driving anyway? And I don't mean an advertising campaign, because when most people see one of those, they just switch off anyway. Or they're fast-forwarding on their TV.
Do you mean you watch television?
Well, I don't. I've heard of it from other people. I don't have time to watch telly anymore. Although I have caught up with the Grand Tour.
Yes. There was a time when people, if you said to someone, no, I don't really watch any television, they'd look as if you were crazy. And nowadays go, oh, right, which do you prefer, Netflix or Amazon Prime?
Mm.
Yeah.
So I think we should be doing more to educate people. There should be, maybe we need to revisit driving tests. Maybe we need to revisit frequency of people getting tested.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there needs to be mandatory refresher courses, maybe not with necessarily a test at the end of it, but with a refresher course that they've sat through. I don't know, but I think, again, it's a bit like the air quality thing. It's not one solution. There is many things that need to be done.
I think someone will point out that if you have been as part of any serious punishment like that, then people will often have their driving licenses revoked in one fell swoop, and will then have to pass a test again to get that.
But if we did it beforehand, we wouldn't get in that situation.
Yes, exactly. I'm merely saying because people will point out to us that that's already the case. So
that's fine. Yes,
I was just trying to cover
that. We are aware that is the situation.
Yes, we're aware that's the case.
Yeah. Right. Let's move on.
Speaking of fun legislation, so you remember a couple of months ago, it was September, we pointed about the No to No MOT campaign that was being started by Graham Easton of Great Escapes Car. We've mentioned Great Escapes a few times. We've been invited along to one of their media days. With Graham has been on review. That was as close as I'll ever get to the American full disclosure.
Now you make it sound as though there's other things hidden away.
No, I don't. Only to you.
That's the closest I'll get to full disclosure.
No, I didn't. I meant the way that Jalopnik does it every 10 seconds. Full disclosure, I once drove a car. which is completely trashing a serious news story, Clews. So,
That's your phrasing, not my fault.
shall I go back and start this one again?
No, we're going to start from here properly.
Okay.
Because this is actually a serious issue. You are quite right. This is a serious issue. And friend of the show, Graham, did raise this, and we have supported it on this podcast. We have mentioned it. But it is to do with changing of the MOT exemption scheme.
Yes, it is, because that consultation phase process, whatever, that was started in September, finished at the end of November. So that's all happened. The trouble is that stuff like the Federation of British Historic Vehicle Clubs knew nothing of the proposal in advance. There's the Parliamentary Historic Vehicles Group, for example, is nowhere to be seen this time around. It's all looking a little bit governmental right at the moment, and there's not a lot around it. I haven't seen the actual consultation report. I'm sure it might well be a little while before it's out. But again, it's worth reminding people that this is there, and this is very much coming out, and that right at the minute it's looking like the exemption route is going to be taken. So that's vehicles of at least 40 years old, possibly 30 years old, would be exempt from MOTs. There were other proposals. People have been talking about two-tier tests, so pre and post 1970s cars, which would allow there to be, one set of rigor applied for vehicles. Maybe pre catalytic converter, and another one for vehicles post catalytic converter type of division in there. To allow sort of new testing to move forward, because it can't be held back by older vehicles. But yeah, I think any of us who own or have owned older vehicles will probably experience where you go along to an MOT and discover a whole load of stuff that you didn't necessarily realise yourself were actually an issue. Things like loose wheel bearings and these kind of things, which, unless you put a car up on ramps and jiggle bits around and know what you're looking for, you're not going to find as part of your everyday driving, because they just kind of creep up on you.
Listen, one day it's gone. Gradual. Like the subframe has gone.
Well, yeah, not quite, but it's, yes, yeah.
No, but I mean, you'll notice it because things drop through it all of a sudden. If you're not putting it up on a ramp, if you're not doing regular inspections, if you're not having it annually inspected, because they would point out, look, that sort of rust does not happen overnight, so they would be pointing out, look, this is getting iffy now, you need to fix this.
Can we move on from rust and iffy thing? So yeah, it's just to remind us about that. As soon as I see the actual report, then we'll be back. It's just to remind.
But the hope is not high.
The hope is not looking great right now. And there'll be a link to Graham's blog. Show notes.
Right, list of the week. I know we did SMMMMMMT, but all the M's. But I think we still have space for a list.
Yes. So there is still space for a list, and the list is the Next Green Car Awards this year. So this is a set of awards for vehicles across a number of categories, which we should go through. And every single finalist that I mention here emits less than 100 grams per CO2 on the official cycles, so probably more than that. And yeah. So everything emits less than that 100 grams per kilometre of CO2. And should we start on some of the groupings? So, City Car, the winner was certainly a popular choice here in Oslo, was the Volkswagen e-Up. So the electric Volkswagen Up was the winner in there. Commended was the Mahindra E2O for whatever reasons. In the Super Mini winner, the Renault Zoe ZE40. So that's the 200-mile real-world range Renault Zoe was the winner, which I think is pretty worthwhile. Commended is the larger battery BMW i3 as well. Both of which are cars that I would happily have on my drive and happily be seen driving. A small family car winner. I wouldn't have thought it was a small family car, but never mind. It's the Hyundai Ioniq Electric.
Mm-hmm.
And the commended car is the first internal combustion engine we've seen so far, which is the Renault Megane. It has a triple ding. I'm so sorry. I'm embarrassed. Was the Renault Megane, some versions of which emit as little as 39 grams per kilometre, whilst looking pretty smart, that new Megane. I do like it. Large family car winner, the Kia Optima plug-in hybrid.
I like the look of that. I do like the look. I like the estate as well.
Yeah, with the commended large family car being the Toyota Prius. Yes. So I have to digress yet again for a little while. I have friends in the US, friends from the US. Many of them are current or former Volkswagen Jetta TDI owners. Jetta TDI. And this Kia Optima plug-in hybrid is one of the ones that everyone's going, I'm going to look at that. And then some of them are actually going out and buying. So it does seem to be being quite successful. And that's them trying it against the Prius and stuff, but not necessarily wanting something that looks as wonky as a Prius does.
Designed.
Wonky. So the MPV winner is the BMW 225XE.
Okay, we need to define what an MPV is then, because this is just a tall hatchback, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that what an MPV is now? The small ones are anyway, aren't they?
Yeah. In a word, yeah.
Okay.
So it 46 grams per kilometre, and commended is the Renault Scenic. Is that here?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's
okay.
There's your Camp European siren for the night. The Renault Scenic, 92 grams per kilometre of CO2 in there. Did warn.
You did.
Crossover is the Toyota CHR. Really, yes, I'm looking forward to driving one of these when I get a chance.
It looks good in the blue, doesn't it?
Just good. I like it. And also the Kia Niro is commended in that. That seems quite cool. Is it me, or is the Kia Niro from the front, if you follow the link that'll be in the show notes, you get to the crossover section, the Kia Niro at the front looks a bit like a sort of sharpened up, pointy Mini Countryman. I mean, it's better looking than the Mini Countryman as a result of all of that. But it does. It's the way those lights go back up the wing like that.
I don't see that myself.
Oh, well, maybe it's okay. It's just.
But then again, I'm not a designer like you, so what would I?
No, you're definitely not. SUV winner Tesla Model X.
Is that out?
Indeed, Q7 e-tron. I believe it is now out in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
It's definitely out here because I've seen a whole bunch of them today. Executive winner BMW 330e, commended Mercedes-Benz E350e. Sorry, capital E 350 small e at the end there.
Well, that's a segment that really needs to up its game, because the winner is a car that can do 20-mile real-world estimate on electric only.
Yeah, it is a sector that needs to up.
That really, really needs, or it's crying out for.
Yes.
Maybe the Model 3 will...
I think it'll come. I think they're still at the squeeze new tech into
existing
and
things,
things that were never meant for it. So,
but then again, if you look at BMW, you look at Mercedes, Audi, they have not made a rush towards electrification. Really, BMW have done a bit better because they've made the sub brand.
Yeah, the eyes.
So, but really, the premium sector needs to sort itself out, because with diesel now going to be particularly hated by authorities, business users are going to want something that keeps their tax bill down.
Yeah. So, speaking of which, in the sports section, the sports and convertible section, the winner is the absolutely gorgeous Morgan EV3.
Yes, well done.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Fantastic. And the commended is the Porsche Panamera e-hybrid. Yeah. Next generation. The next generation is, of course, ones which aren't necessarily. It's innovative models close to launch, but which are still pretty much sort of eligible vehicles, really, in this bit. The winner is the River Simple Rasa, which is, of course, the Welsh hydrogen vehicle car mobility service. It's basically compact vehicle as a service, and there's going to be a compact utility vehicle van as a service as well. By as a service, I mean is that you just lease it. You can't actually buy it. You can only rent your way into the infrastructure. And commended is the Tesla Model 3. Their car of the year, moving quickly up, is the Hyundai Ioniq. The Hyundai Ioniq in general. So that's from electric to electric or hybrid.
Yeah.
Not the plug-in, because it doesn't wait on.
No, that's next year. Yeah.
So. Yes. So there we go. That's from Next Green Car. That's nextgreencar.com. We'll get you to their website. Lots of stuff. Lots of really interesting content material if you are interested. Andrew, you've got one last thing to say.
Yes, the and finally section. One I stumbled across. It's December. It is apparently leading up towards Christmas, bar humbug. And John Mayle, or at Mr. J. Dean on Twitter, links will be in the show notes, everyone, don't worry, has started the hashtag Auto Advent, where he's putting out a quiz with a bunch of pictures for each day. And I just thought it was wonderful. It was just it's an odd one. Lovely little thing that somebody's done, and I think it's brilliant, and we should all follow it, play along, and try and answer it. I am hopeless at these, but it's been highly entertaining. It's
like they're like, so every day it's along the lines of the odd one out round. Have I got news for you? So there's 4 pictures, and you've got to work out what the connection is, which one's the odd one out, and this is not the work of 2 minutes sometimes. I mean, there was myself and Nia Khan and someone else, I can't remember who, were just scratching our heads because some of us thought that things were Riley Falcons, and it turns out they were SSs, and it was ridiculous. And what the connection was just ludicrous. So,
but it's great.
You had to remember that, Jaguar derived from a company called Swallow Sidecars. I forget what. And it was, so it was...
But that's one of the things that I think makes Twitter wonderful, is that somebody has spent their spare time and gone, I'm going to do this for whoever wants to play.
Yeah.
And I think that's brilliant. And so go and play along, everyone.
Yes, and John's definitely someone worth following anyway.
Yes.
No matter. So I think that pretty much sums it up this week, doesn't it?
Yes.
I think so. So don't forget that between now and next week, you can give us any feedback and share your thoughts with the show at Motoring Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, on Facebook, and on the contact page of motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Please don't forget to leave a review and rating on iTunes or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing, because it really does matter. Andrew, best way to get in touch with you?
Best way would be via Twitter, where if you search for Crack Windscreen, you shall find me. And if people want to get in touch with you, Alan, what's the best way?
Twitter again, and it's at AJP Bradley. BRADLE1. We'll be back next week, but until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clews.
And safe motoring.